Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and welcome to another live stream with Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining. And we are here, and let me have you say good evening. I would like to hear those of you who are on the live. I would like you to, say hello so that I can know that you have joined me on the live. Make sure that you're liking and you are subscribing to the channel. And today we are going to be looking at Holness sworn in for the third consecutive time in office. What it means for Jamaica. That is what we'll be looking at in this afternoon's or this evening's program. Now, the sworn in ceremony just took place, so I'm sure those of you are viewing it online. It was streamed live on many platforms in Jamaica, on TV Day, on CVM TV, and on GIS, right? So we welcome those of you who are joining for this very special program in terms of what is next for Jamaica now that Dr. Andrew Michael Holness has been sworn in as the next Prime Minister of Jamaica. Up to this afternoon, he was still Prime Minister designate, right? But now he is the full-fledged Prime Minister of Jamaica, having been sworn in at King's House. Now, I think the ceremony was very interesting, very solemn for the most part, except the dancehall music that we saw coming at the end of the program and also midway into the program. The music was quite an interesting mix of different popular music. And it seems to me that Andrew Holness might have selected the songs that he wanted to have been sung at the ceremony. But, of course, Mr. Vegas, always with I Am Blessed, the song, I think Andrew Holness, that song resonates with Andrew Holness because he understands that he went through a very terrible battle, right? It was an incendiary battle for the leadership of Jamaica for a third consecutive term in office. Wasn't it incendiary? Yes, even though it was a festive election, but we know that the rhetoric was often very intense on both sides of the political aisle. But through thick and through thin, Andrew Holness emerged as the winner, and he is now the Prime Minister of Jamaica. And we have to accept him as thus, even though it might not have been the person that you voted for, or you might just have been sitting on the fence, but we must agree that Dr. Andrew Michael Holness is now the Prime Minister, right? The Prime Minister of Jamaica land we love, right? And we must give him our respect, our support as he endeavors to do his best in terms of treading through some very challenging times, some very rough waters that lie ahead. He will have to chart Jamaica on a safe path onward. Okay. Now, how did you find the ceremony? What did you think about the ceremony when you were on it? Did you think it was a lovely ceremony? Did you enjoy it? Do you think that it was reminiscent of any other ceremony, that sworn-in ceremony that you might have watched? Let me know in the chat. Now, this morning, the Gleaner opened up with a very interesting story about, Andrew Holness's vision for Jamaica in terms of where he's. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull that up, though. Sometimes the Gleaner doesn't allow you to pull up the stories, but Vision in Focus was the heading of the Jamaica Gleaner this morning in terms of Dr. Andrew Holness going into a third term in office. I'm not able to read it because, of course, the Gleaner doesn't allow me to read this story online at the moment. But, we could say that Andrew Holness did pronounce a very interesting speech. And one of the things I liked about its speech, it was humble, right? So it was a speech that depicted humility, based on what he said. But the fact is also he seeks to develop, Andrew Holness wants to develop on the macroeconomic achievements that he was able to accomplish during his first and second term in office. And he's planning, based on what he says in the speech, that he wants to be able to share this macroeconomic prosperity with the entire Jamaica. He realizes that many people are still not included in this macroeconomic achievement. So he's suggesting that from the small farmer to the middleman, they need to be a part of the achievements of what he has achieved so far in this macroeconomic stability. Now, one of the things that stood out in his speech is the fact that he was able to call, his opponents to a sort of, it's time now for us to come together, sort of unity, that in spite of the fact that you might not have loved the fact that the bitter medicine of losing the election, but, at the end of the day, we are Jamaicans and we have to come together. We have to unite, okay, so that we can build Jamaica not only for GLP members, but for the entire Jamaican population. So on that basis, I think that his speech resonated and echoed sentiments of unity, which we need at the moment. At this current moment, we need some form of unity in Jamaica. We can't continue, in this, having the sense of disunity that has characterized our party for a long time. Now, the thing about it that I'm looking at when I look at what is happening in Jamaica is that when you look at the characteristics, the disposition of Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, we can say that he is going to go down in history, in Jamaica's history, as a politician that sort of encouraged unity. He was not this sort of person. In fact, in spite of the fact that there were a lot of incendiary remarks made about him, but he was not willing to, to stoop to the lowest common denominator, right? He was not a person who was going after his political enemies, as far as I know. He was quite calm, right, and had this composure, right, that many prime ministers would have loved to have had, right? Remember now that he had state power, he now still has state power, and he could have used his state power to have gone after his political enemies. And many attacks were launched at him, but he was able to ride above a lot of the incendiary, a lot of the uncomfortable remarks made against him, bitter comments about him. And today I learned that even during the election day, that some radio stations in Jamaica, including Radio Jamaica, and it seemed TVJ, they were carrying the news that the FID was going to lock Andrew Holness up for his illicit enrichment. And with all of that, Andrew Holness stood up and he emerged as the winner of the election. So what it seems clearly is that no matter what Jamaicans were trying to do to keep him down, he rose above the difficulties, he rose above the trials, and he won the election. So now that he's won the election and that is behind us, we need to know, where are we moving? What's next for Andrew Holness and his party? What's next for Jamaica, most importantly? Now, what do you think? What do you think? Those of you who are in the chat, did you enjoy the ceremony today? What did you think? What do you think about the ceremony that you watched today? Did you enjoy? Did you think that Andrew Holness' speech resonated with you? And what are some of the things that resonated with you when you listened, having listened to his speech? Let me hear in the chat. Please don't be shy. You can say hello to me and let me know what you're thinking. Now, remember that you need to like the live. Please make sure that you're liking and you're subscribing to the channel. Now, when we look at some of the key points of his speech, let me see if any of you are responding in terms of your comments, okay? What do you think about, let me hear, what do you think about the speech today? Do you think that it was a good speech, or do you think it was mediocre? It was a mediocre speech that Andrew Holness pronounced today at King's House? Please let me know. What do you think? Let me hear in the comment section right here on the live. But let us look at the whole matter of the economy and jobs. Now, Andrew Holness, mentioned that the economy is, of course, on a good footing, on a good foundation. He spoke about the fact that, many of the stats that he's been saying, even before the election, during the election, and during the debates, that, unemployment is low at 3.3%. He's speaking about the hundreds of thousands of jobs that under his regime, under his administration, he was able to amass and he was able to provide. So all of those are good indicators, according to him, that is moving the economy forward. What he's over suggesting is that we still need to ensure that this development, that this prosperity is inclusive. And that is what he's seeking to do in his third consecutive term in office. And I think that we should applaud him for not just saying that this is just where it ends, that the macroeconomic stability is where it ends. He's saying, no, I want to ensure that all the prosperity, all of the things that we have achieved so far is going to be going is going to trickle down to the ordinary man and woman on the street. So that is something that I found very interesting about the speech. Now, how he's going to do that, I don't think that he was able to say that during his speech, and that is the thing with many of the speeches pronounced by many of our political leaders. They often make these grandiose claims, but oftentimes they do not have the how they are going to be able to achieve such great objectives that they have made for themselves. Now, when we think about also the matter of crime and security, we know that crime and violence, according to Andrew Holness and the stats that have been given to us, that crime and violence is on a downward trend. Do you think crime and violence, for those of you who are living in Jamaica, do you think crime and violence is on a downward trend, or do you think this is just some hanky-panky, propaganda that Andrew Holness is, disseminating? What do you think? What do you think about the whole matter of crime and violence? I mean, I think up to today, I was hearing about shootings happening, where we heard about that in Mandeville. That happened was it 2 days ago or some days ago? And now we're hearing about the flare-up of violence somewhere in Kingston today. So we're wondering, is the crime and violence low? Is it trending down as the Prime Minister and his team, his party, are suggesting? Or are we just hearing just mere fluff, mere words, and these are not necessarily achievable goals that he has said that he has achieved? Now, do you think crime can trend down if we still continue to have these garrison constituencies, if we still continue to have the guns flowing into Jamaica from the United States and perhaps elsewhere? Do you think we'll ever achieve a reduction, a permanent reduction in crime and violence, if we still continue to have the ghost, as we would say, of garrison constituencies and the guns that are seeping into our communities day after day? What do you think? Do you think that Andrew Holness is going to achieve that feat? Please let me know in the comment section. Now, education and youth. What were his plans for education and youth? I think that he was talking about the whole need for re-socialization of our youth, which was very good. I think that was a high point of his speech, that he was speaking. He addressed the whole matter that our youths need to be re-socialized as a society. He spoke about the whole matter of our culture and how our culture is far, and it goes beyond the reach of many cultures. It transcends many cultural barriers, and Jamaica is one of the most known and respected cultures in the world. I think that was one of the highlights of the speech, and I think that we should build, as he's saying, on our culture and improve on it, so that people can see that we have more to offer than just music and entertainment, but we are scholars in our own rights, and we have lots of other things in terms of having an educated populace, that people can go to Jamaica and they can see us as a civilized community, as a civilized society. So that was very good. I think that I like that. Now, in the area of foreign policy, he was suggesting that we also need to show our morality, and we need to stand up for justice, for brotherhood, for peace, for security. These are some of the things that resonated with me. But one of the things I've been asking Andrew Holness, he did say, let me just give him his credit, that he did say that we have to also be careful, be cautious of how we navigate the geopolitical realm or foreign policy. Maybe some fights we cannot really take on because it might not be ours. So he was in that way that we have to tread cautiously in terms of how we deal with our foreign policy. What did you think about that? What do you think about Andrew Holness's deafening silence on what is happening in Venezuela with the U.S. warships in the southern Caribbean waters? What do you think about that? Do you think that he should make some pronouncements? Do you think that he should continue to be silent? Or do you think that we should make our position be known and our voices be heard about what we think about the U.S. impending war on Venezuela? And I'm sure that he might have been alluding to that when he talked about, our foreign policy, Jamaica being their voices being heard globally, and of course airing what we think about what is happening in the world at large. Now, he didn't mention much about U.S. relations, neither did he mention much about CARICOM, our role in CARICOM. We know that he is currently the chairman of CARICOM. That's Dr. Andrew Michael Holness is the current chairperson of CARICOM. Now, when we think about the big promises, as I've told you, he's talking about the whole matter of reducing crime and that we will have a safer Jamaica. But again, we hear this so often that we're going to have a safer Jamaica, but we are not hearing again strategies in terms of what they are going to implement to ensure that we live a peaceful and secured life in Jamaica. So that was one of the weaknesses of his speech, and one of the weaknesses of many speeches that we have listened to over the years that we have heard pronounced time and time again. Because we know in Jamaica that we're great speech writers, aren't we? We write excellent speeches, but in terms of the ability to implement these speeches and to ensure that we put our words into practice, it's a challenge, right? It remains a challenge even to this day. So that is something that we need to understand. Now, do you think Holness can deliver? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? And I want you to respond. Come on, guys, please write your things. Do you think Holness is going to deliver based on what the promises, based on the pronouncements that he made in his speech? Do you think that Holness is going to deliver? And maybe not only in his speech, I should ask, based on his performance for the last 9 or 10 years, do you think that Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, is going to deliver on the promises that he made in his speech this afternoon at his sworn-in ceremony? What do you think? Let me know. Do you think he has the capacity? Do you think that he has a track record to deliver on his promises? Let me know. Please write and let me know. And let me know where you're writing from. Are you writing from Jamaica? What part of Jamaica you're writing from? What part of the world? You might be in England. You might be in Canada. So those who are in Canada, let me know if you're in Canada. Maybe you're a member of the diaspora. Those who are in the United States, let me know where you're writing from and where you're commenting from. Those from the UK. Okay. Those who might be from Africa. We have also the diaspora as far in Africa. Those who might be in Asia, make sure that you tell me. But the question is, for those of you who are just joining, we are looking at Andrew Holness. Holness is sworn in for 3rd consecutive term, what it means for Jamaica. And I'm asking the question, do you think, based on Dr. Andrew Michael Holness's speech that he pronounced today and his track record that he's had since for the last 9 years as Prime Minister, do you think that he has the capacity to deliver? What do you think? Say yes or no. I want you to hear, and why. Why? If you say yes or no, let me know if why or why not. Why do you think he is able to deliver, or why do you think that he's not able to deliver on the promises that he has made in the speech that he has just pronounced in his sworn-in program? Make sure that you are responding. Make sure that you are also liking the videos. Now, where do you see Jamaica in terms of Andrew Holness's government? Do you think that Jamaica is going to prosper under Andrew Holness, a third administration of Andrew Holness? Do you think that Jamaica is going to prosper, and why? Let me know, people. I want you to respond to me. I want this to be an engaging conversation. I just want to be a lecturer. I'm a lecturer, and I can lecture until tomorrow if you want me to lecture. But also, okay, because I've done that many times. I'm a university, used to lecture at university level. So let me just say that I can chat if you want to chat. But I want you to engage you. I want to be knowing that I am connecting with you, and I'm not just here beating my gum up, right? So let me know, do you think that Andrew Holness has the capacity to deliver on all the promises that he has made in his speech, and based on what you have seen over the last 9-10 years of his administration, do you think he's going to be able to deliver? Now, the crowd was interesting. I saw a very interesting crowd, roundup of people. Now, my question was, where was Mr. Golding's wife? That was Mark Golding's. She was missing from the audience, and I was like, where was she? Maybe, hopefully, she wasn't ill, and for that reason could not have attended the ceremony. But she was visibly absent from the sworn-in ceremony at King's House. It seems also, ladies and gentlemen, that the Governor General doesn't seem to be all that healthy. And I'm wondering if he should call today. He didn't seem, even in his speech, you could see that, Sir Patrick Allen is getting a little bit frail, right? And I'm wondering, if it's time for him to quit the job as Governor General and allow somebody younger to take up that position. But I would like you to let me know, what did you think about the crowd? What do you think about Andrew Holness's speech, his capacity to lead and to deliver on the promises that he has made the Jamaican people? Now, Holness says that, Jamaica is ready for progress. But is Jamaica ready for him? Do you think so? He said Jamaica is ready for progress. First of all, are we progressing as a society? Do you think that we are progressing? Do you think that the economy is as progressive as Dr. Andrew Michael Holness is saying? Or do you think that he's just bragging and he's not speaking the truth? Please let me know. What do you think? Again, ladies and gentlemen, let's write something in the comment section so that I can know that you are interacting with the audience. I want to hear from you. Do you think that Andrew Holness has presided over a prosperous economy? What do you think? Please place your comment in the box, so in the comment section rather, that I can see what you're saying and what you are thinking. Now, make sure you're also subscribing to the channel and you're hitting the bell for whenever I release another video, you will see it. Now, in the Observer today, we have Dr. Holness sworn in for a fourth time, and Dr. Holness was on Tuesday sworn in as the country's 9th Prime Minister of Jamaica. Dr. Holness, during the swearing-in ceremony held at King's House and led by Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, took the oath of allegiance and the oath of office. Now, Sir Patrick Allen, in his remarks during the swearing-in ceremony, urged Dr. Holness to lead with clarity and compassion for the people of Jamaica. Now, this is what Patrick Allen says, the Governor General. Dr. Holness, you are reassuming office as the 9th Prime Minister since independence. Leadership, however, is never merely a title. It is both a privilege and a solemn responsibility. You are once again called to lead with clarity, conviction, and compassion, to ensure that the fruits of progress that we have shared, that no Jamaican is left behind anytime. You carry the hopes of people that desire a society that is more inclusive, more prosperous, and more just, the Governor General said. What do you think of this statement pronounced by the Governor General? Do you think this was a wise counseling for the Prime Minister, declared by the Governor General Sir Patrick Allen, that he is there to be inclusive and to also to create a more just Jamaican society. What do you think? Yeah, I think those were excellent words pronounced by the Governor General. Now, I saw the likes of Bruce Golding. What do you think? Bruce Golding was there, and he must have been proud about the fact that Andrew Holness was he was the one who anointed Andrew Holness upon leaving office, upon demitting office in 2010. So I'm sure that he's proud of Andrew Holness, and Andrew Holness moved on as a young man to have gone in and successfully won 2 terms in office onto a 3rd consecutive term in office. So I could see that Bruce Golding, as a political father to Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness was very proud, and he must have been exceptionally proud of his achievement, knowing that there were others who were vying for the position, those who had more experience when Mr. Golding was leaving office than Andrew Holness had at the time. But that Andrew Holness stepped up to the plate, and he showed that he had the gumption, right? That he had the gumption to lead Jamaica and was able to, to secure for himself a feat that I'm sure will go down in history as one of the most successful prime ministers that Jamaica has ever seen. Whether we like him or not, he has certainly earned himself a spot in the annals of Jamaican history. And we can't deny that. We have to be fair, we have to be honest, and that is what it is. We have to be just, as Andrew Holness is suggesting to our society. Now, when we think about, the whole concept of the economy and the debt-ridden economy that we have, I am wondering what is going to be Dr. Andrew Holness's plan to build now Jamaica for Jamaicans. Are we going to still hear, because right now we hear that the debt is at 62.4% of GDP. So are we going to hear the IMF, about the IMF, and we have to ban our bellies and we have to suffer austerity? Or are we going to see now more monies relaxed to be able to build the infrastructure of Jamaica? Okay, was it yesterday I saw some taxi operators, they were protesting because of the poor conditions of the roads that they were in. I think it was a spot, an area in St. Anne, and the roads really looked horrible and deplorable, right? So I'm wondering now that the debt has been lowered. I wonder if Dr. Andrew Holness is going to be able, if he will have the autonomy to use up some of those funds, to relax those funds so that he can invest in more in education, more in healthcare, more in job creation, which we so desperately need. Because even though Andrew Holness is talking about the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs, we know that people still are not earning the wages that they would like to earn. He also spoke about the fact that under his administration, the government has also increased the public wages the most that any other successive government, any other previous government has been able to increase that public sector wages for. But how much of a wage increase did they get? We see our teachers leaving in droves, we see our nurses leaving in droves, and many other successful Jamaican graduates are leaving Jamaica in droves. So if it is in fact that they're earning big salaries, why don't they remain in Jamaica and live comfortably? Why is it that they continue to go abroad? Why is it that Jamaicans still do not see Jamaica as a country that they can live and that they can, have a successful family and raise a successful family? Why is it, while the Prime Minister is speaking about the prosperity, yet there is a disconnect with the Jamaican populace? Something in this speech also that was missing, that maybe you've heard it, but I didn't hear it, was the fact that 60.5% of the Jamaican population did not show up to vote 60.5% of Jamaicans, we call them the silent majority, did not show up to vote. And I didn't hear a word from Dr. Andrew Holness about how is he going to deal with that problem, because this is a crisis, whether we like it or not. And I hear Kevin O'Brien Chang on in an article he wrote, I read it this morning, in which he was saying that, when Jamaica had a record turnout, a record voter turnout in 1980, it was 87% voter turnout in 1980 during the bloodiest election that we've ever had. He's suggesting that is not Dr. but Kevin O'Brien Chang. He is suggesting that he would prefer to have a low voter turnout and have a peaceful election than to have a very high voter turnout that we had in 1980 and then had a very bloody election. What do you think about that? Do you prefer to have a high turn rate? Good evening. Very good. Good evening, Sir Andrew. Let me see what you're saying here. Good evening, Sir Andrew. I have similar concerns regarding whether a lower debt will free up funds to invest in other sectors, industries like the health, most importantly, to hope for, I guess. Yeah, I have similar concerns. We want to know, and I don't think Akil Carter, I don't know if we know really what is happening with the International Monetary Fund. We are hearing that the debt is going down. It's at now 62.4%. We don't know how they arrived at those figures, and we don't know how much money they have available to them now in the kitty so that they will be able to use in other segment, other areas of the economy. We're not hearing much, and Jamaicans are not demanding much of their Prime Minister. I think we need now to demand a lot from the government and say we want to know, given that we have made the sacrifices to have brought the debt down, how much money have you saved since we have paid down a huge portion? Because then again, Andrew Holness was there in the speech saying that when he came into office, 2016, the debt was standing at 120% of GDP, so very high. And currently, after 10 years now, it is at 62.4. That is a great achievement for any administration to have done. But we don't know, Akil Carter, how much money he has at his disposal now to be able to build and to shift those funds. Let me hear from other people. What do you think? Do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that Andrew Holness will have enough funds, will have enough relaxed funds for him to build the infrastructure, the healthcare infrastructure, the education infrastructure, and all the infrastructures that we need? Today, for example, I sent a story from the Gleaner to one of my friends who welcomed it very well. The Gleaner reported that St. James High School, secondary, well, what's upgraded, one of the upgraded secondary high schools, did exceptionally well in the CXC, in the CXC exams. And do you know how they achieved it? The sacrifices of teachers. Even though the teachers did not earn a cent, but they were able to sacrifice their weekends, they sacrificed their after school time when they should probably go home to see their families and to do their whatever they responsible that they have at home to do. And they spend time with the children to help them to get their subjects. Now, if the teachers are making that sacrifice, don't you think if we have some relaxed money that the government should be able to raise the salaries of teachers and give them a livable salary, that they won't be able to want to go abroad for a better income, and that they can also spend quality time in the schools without having to hustle for a second or third job, so that they'll be able to improve the standard of education in our society? These are things that we need to ask. But again, a lot of what is coming out of Jamaica, Akil, and this is very sad, as I was saying, sharing with a friend this afternoon, a colleague of mine, that the election that we had recently was diehards against diehards. So you had diehard PNP against diehard GLP. And that was the election. The election was not, Andrew Holness has not gotten a mandate from the Jamaican population. Well, we can say the majority. He has gotten a mandate from the JLP diehards, but he hasn't really got a mandate because 60.5% of the Jamaican people did not vote. Now, what do you think about that, ladies and gentlemen? I think I'm trying to sound the alarm, and many people are not heeding the call, the beckon on the call. How is it that we can say we are a democracy if 60.5% of our citizens chose not to vote? What is that saying about our democracy? I would like you to tell me. And those of you here, I know I probably have JLP supporters, PNP supporters. That is good. I want to have all supporters here, independent, maybe from the UIC. Anybody, I want to hear your voices. Okay? Are we really a veritable democracy? Are we truly a veritable democracy, a true democracy, if 60.5% of Jamaican populace did not show up to vote? Only 39.5% voted in the last election. What does that say about the current government, which has now been given a third term in office? What do you think? Do you think that if Andrew Holness's record was very impressive and people could sense the prosperity that he's suggesting, don't you think that people would have turned out to vote? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think if Andrew Holness, as he's suggesting, and his party had really developed a prosperous economic infrastructure, do you not think that the majority, at least 58% of the population of the electorate, would have turned out to vote? What do you think? Do you think that this election, we can talk about it in terms of it was peaceful? We love the songs, right? Time come and people danced and they had a wonderful time. But beyond that time, beyond the festivity, we now have to look at the substance, at the meat of the matter, and say, have we failed as a society? Has our politics failed our people? And are they just leading for a selective few? Are they just governing the country for a selective few? Are they governing for the majority of Jamaicans? That is what we have to say. All right. Now, Jeffrey Poorman, you don't have much education, obviously. So you need to find another platform, because obviously you're not at the level that I would like to engage. If you're going to speak, I would like you now to be able to see something intelligent. And obviously, Jeffrey Poorman, you're just not of that ilk, right? So you need to find a dunce channel. We love dunces in Jamaica. So please feel free to go over to a platform in which you'll have your dunce people to talk to. So that is what we need to understand. Okay, we need to look at these situations and ask ourselves, is the politics in Jamaica doing well for the majority of Jamaica or Jamaicans? And if it is doing well, why is it that only 39.5% of the populace showed up to vote in the last election? What do you think? And many of us are not talking about these things. We're talking about the gossips, because that's what we love. And who is with who, and the FIDs going after Andrew Holness, and we listen to the Rattigans, and these people are just telling us all of these, corruption charges. But both political parties are corrupt. Both political parties are corrupt. And as I've suggested in my videos, that when the shoe is placed on the other foot, they behave the same. So we hear Mark Golding talking about voter suppression, right? We hear him talking about vote buying. We hear him talking about intimidation, voter intimidation. And these are things that happen all the time. Now, is that okay? Should we be endorsing it? No. But we have to look at it from a systemic point of view and not just say this is a JLP problem or this is a PNP problem. It is a Jamaican political problem. And I think that it's now time for us as citizens of Jamaica to become more empowered. Stop looking at one party. Stop looking at one political party. For example, you are asking all the right questions, sir. Even the low voter, let me raise it here. Even the low voter turnout is a cause for concern for both parties. It's difficult to accept such a low number choosing our country's future. Absolutely. And what worries me, Akil, if indeed the people thought that the economy was prosperous and Andrew Holness was doing a magnificent job, I don't think that Jamaicans would have been that stupid to say, I am going to ensure that I vote in Andrew Holness. They couldn't, they wouldn't. But then again, we also have a whole confluence of factors that impacted on the low voter turnout, including the fact that should we make the election day now a public holiday, there are people who complain that they didn't get the time, the window of time to go and vote. So what they did, they just chose not to vote because, they weren't going to waste their time, and then, they didn't get enough time to vote. So they just stayed at work. So should we now make it a law in which we have all election day to be a public holiday where people can have the entire day to stay at the polling station, however long they need to stay at the polling station for? Another thing I also was very concerned about during the election, especially for our senior citizens, they are senior citizens. They can't stand at a polling station, for long hours. I think we need to have a space for them. And one of my friends, Dr. Clive Hansen, he mentioned that a great suggestion or great recommendation that he gave was that we could have the senior citizens vote when the police are voting. Since that we don't have a lot of police in Jamaica, maybe they could make a day for senior citizens, because many of them cannot stand the growing long hours that they have to put up with waiting at the polling station, and that could also impact the voter turnout. Another thing, I'm hearing complaints of people who reside, for example, in Montego Bay, and they have their polling station, their ballots to be cast is in Runaway Bay. Or it's, somebody might live in Brownstown and they have to go all the way to Caverley or to Alexandra. Why do we have to go that far? Why do we have to, travel far? Why is the ballot box so far from where you live? Right? I don't think that we should be tolerating that. So these are other factors. Maybe some of the people that did not show up to vote did not vote because they were showing disinterest in the politics, but it was because of these factors. Senior citizens, long lines, lengthy delays. They can't stand up too long, so they leave or they just don't go out to vote, right? So we need to respect our senior citizens by bringing the vote to them at their house, or maybe we need to also have mailed-in ballots. Are we ready for that? Are we mature enough politically to have mailed-in ballots for our senior citizens or for other people who might not be able to go out to vote, so that they don't have to traverse from long distances from Montego Bay to Alexandra, or from Montego Bay to Runaway Bay? That is ridiculous. And these are some of the things that we have to look at. However, the government of today, Andrew Holness, cannot deny the fact that there is some level of voter apathy, and there is a disconnect with the narratives spoken by our politicians and what the people are seeing in their lived experience in their lives. There is a disconnect. There is a disconnect. And I've been saying that we cannot continue to think that we can continue to just run roughshod of our people, because that silent majority could be dangerous. That silent majority could be dangerous and could lead to an overturn of government. We've never had that. We've never had that. But don't take people for granted because they are silent for a while. They might not remain silent forever, especially when hardships, hit them, and crises, they have to endure all these economic crises that we see many of our people have had to endure. One of the things I'm looking at too, when we look at the geopolitical realm, I don't understand why Jamaicans think that we are just living in a world by ourselves and think that, Jamaica is for Jamaica, and which it should be. Don't get me wrong, but it is not. This is not how the world is set up. We are in a global community, and our politicians, PNP and GLP, have signed off. They have signed us off on many multilateral treaties, which have taken us into these global community, which makes us sometimes not being able to function as a sovereign state as we should function or should be able to do. So we are not all that sovereign as we say we are. Okay, and I hope you understand that. Andrew Holness is not going to be able to solve half of the problems that he says that he's going to be able to solve. Right? Look at what is happening in the Caribbean waters. Recently, I got a message from a correspondent of mine in Trinidad and Tobago who was telling me that since the buildup of the ships in the south, the southern waters there, the South Caribbean waters, that the prices of fish have gone up. It means, therefore, just the war has augmented, has increased the price of fish in Trinidad and Tobago. So do we see how these things can impact us? The cost of oil, of energy, all of these things will impact us. So somebody was saying to me, oh, Andrew Holness should not make his voice heard with what is happening there in the South Caribbean waters, because that's their fight. That's their struggles. And that is what you think. But that's not, whatever is happening in the Ukraine right now, look at what is happening in the Ukraine. Look at how it has altered the lifestyles of the Europeans. If you understand that before the Ukraine war, the war in Ukraine, or the Russian war in Ukraine, that the Europeans, the Western Europeans, the Germans, the British, they got their oil, the French, their oil from the pipeline, through the pipeline that they had with, that they had arranged with Russia. During the war, the United States blew up that pipeline. And right now, guess what is happening? Their economy has faltered. Right now, we can see the deindustrialization of the German economy. And I've been trying to let Jamaicans understand that you and Andrew Holness are not in charge. And the global things that we're seeing, the geopoliticals, the crisis that we're seeing happening in the geopolitical realm are going to impact us. And Andrew Holness might not be able to solve the problems that he is trying to solve. And not because he can't, or probably he won't, not because he probably doesn't want to solve it, I should say, or solve them. It is because that they are much bigger than he is. So we have to also educate ourselves in terms of what we think, what is within the human realm that Andrew Holness can achieve and what he might not be able to achieve. Look at Kamala Persad-Caesar. Okay? Do you think she's saying what she's saying because she really believes what she's saying? She's only saying them because she does not want to upset the United States. She knows that if she says otherwise, as we saw in Jamaica during Dudas Coke and his expedition, that if we oppose the United States and its foreign policy, as much as we want peace, that we're going to receive the angst of the United States. Sanctions, economic sanctions after economic sanctions. And Trinidad obviously doesn't want that. So she's trying to toe the line with Washington, D.C. Okay? And this is Trinidad, oil-rich, or what was oil-rich Trinidad. Okay? Now, I am also perplexed and perturbed at the fact that over the last how many years of independence, Jamaica has never, over those years, achieved even 5 years of prosperity. Trinidad has. Guyana, many people are complaining about Guyana because they're saying that the oil profits are not remaining in the country, and many of them are saying that it's not inclusive, that they're not feeling the huge profits that these oil barons are making. However, whatever it is, their economy is growing at a rapid rate. Our economy has not grown, right? Our economy has not grown for how many years? We've heard from Andrew Holness about, one in 5 in 3 or whatever, when he came into office in 2016. And, we've barely grown by 1%, per annum, right? When you look at the DR, the Dominican Republic, their economy, is fast growing, one of the fastest growing economy in the Caribbean. Why has Jamaica not been able to grow? And Andrew Holness spoke about our culture and the global impact of our culture. Do you think, apart from baseball, that the DR has any great big culture? No, they have not influenced the world as Jamaicans have influenced the world. Huh? They have not. Yeah, let us look at what Shane, yes, because I love your participation. So I'm looking at what Shane is saying. Shane Graham, we all know that he represents private interests, and we all know who runs the island. Why are you caught up in his speeches and this public distraction? Now, what I'm doing here is I have to listen to his speech, Shane, because he's the Prime Minister. So what I'm tasked with doing is because many Jamaicans don't know what you and I know, that that Dr. Andrew Holness does not really run the show, then I have to I have to sort of unpack what he says, and contextualize it. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to unpack what Dr. Andrew Holness has said and contextualize it. So that's what I'm doing, Shane, not anything more. Of course, I believe exactly what you say, but many Jamaicans, I would say 80% or more of Jamaicans, don't understand that our politics are really controlled by private interests, private economic interests, that our politicians are sent there. But, one of the things that we should understand, do you think, ladies and gentlemen, that people are going to plow huge sums of money into your campaign to send you to Jamaica House to do what we the people want you to do? No, it's not going to happen. It's what they want the Prime Minister to do that they're going to do. So Shane is saying, we see that Sahel was way below us, and how in space of a few years they have the fastest growing GDP. And he has not delivered to the benefit of the working class, in my opinion. So you are saying that what's his name, Traore? Are you saying, Shane Graham, that Traore has not delivered, or he has delivered? Are you suggesting that he has not delivered, or you're saying that he has delivered? Well, Traore is doing, based on what we're hearing, he's doing the opposite of what we are doing in the Caribbean, right? Ibrahim Traore is doing the complete opposite. What is he doing? He's trying to make public, to nationalize the resources of the country, and not to place them in private hands and private firms. Because when we normally think that, okay, the government is inefficient, which they are. We can't deny that, especially in Jamaica, our government is inefficient. And Andrew Holness did mention about, in his third term, trying to make more efficient the government. However, because the government is inefficient, it does not mean that we should put all our natural resources into the hands of private sector, because the private sector is not there to render service. They are there to make profits, and to make lucrative profits from our people, or of our people. And that is what they are doing. Okay, so the private sector, as Traore understands, the country is rich in a lot of natural resources. That is Burkina Faso, right? And Traore is trying, just like Michael Manley was trying to do in the 1970s, and the CIA stopped him. The CIA actually destabilized the Manley government and told him that he could not nationalize the bauxite and all of the other natural resources that he would have used now to have plowed into education. And that is why we were able to have education free up to university level under Michael Manley, because he was able to use some of the funds that would have been captured by the private sector and would have been sent abroad. All right, so when we're hearing about these foreign investors are not there to build our economy. Okay, they are there to capture our resources and to make money. And after they've made their money, they'll send them abroad. And that is what we have to understand. But what we think we need, and we hear the Goldings talking it, we hear the Andrew Holnesses talking it, we hear the Mark Goldings, they're saying that we need private investors to come to Jamaica to invest. But, nothing is wrong with private investors, but they should not control our resources. They should not control Jamaican resources. And that is what Traore is doing. Traore is saying Africa for the Africans, Burkina Faso for the, what you call these people again, for the people who live in Burkina Faso. All right, that is what he's saying, and that is what we should be doing. What I find very interesting and ironic with the case in Jamaica is that we are in Jamaica glorifying Ibrahim Traore while we are, supporting Andrew Holness and Mark Golding, while they are doing the complete opposite of what Ibrahim Traore is doing. Are we mentally ill? Do we think that, Andrew Holness and Mark Golding are of the same ilk of a Ibrahim Traore in terms of economic policies? What do you think? Do you think that they would be in agreement? Or do you think that they are functioning in the same capacity? Let me hear from you. Do you think that Ibrahim Traore and Andrew Holness and Mark Golding are compatible in terms of their economic policies? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Let me hear from you. I want to hear. Let me hear from you guys. Don't just, and make sure you're liking the videos. You are also subscribing to the channel and you are participating in the chat. We want to have you participate. This should be an active participation. Remember now that we need more of these conversations. We can't just talk about corruption, which that is important, but what we have in Jamaica, we have those who agree with the PNP corruption because they're PNP, and those who agree with the JLP corruption because they're JLP. And we can't move like that. All right? We can't move like that. As Akil is saying, absolutely not. There's no comparison. But why do we continue, Akil? Why do we continue to praise Andrew Holness or Mark Golding, whichever party you're aligned with, and yet we are praising Ibrahim Traore? Why do we think that is we want to model Africa and we are Africans? At the same time, our economic policies are based on policies in the West which have failed us. We continue to pursue economic policies which over the years have not been successful for us. So why do we still continue to implement the same policies? Are we intelligent or are we just delusional? Let me know from what you think, because these conversations are conversations that are not being had in Jamaica. We're not hearing why the IMF or the World Bank, why is it that they have to, impose such austerity? Why can't they have us, for example, lend us some money and have us expand our economy? And the more we expand our economy is the more money we'll have to be able to repay them, to pay down on our debt. But the more they contract our economy, and our economy is not growing, then how are we going to generate foreign income or foreign reserves, right? The same thing there, as we talk about the foreign reserves, we hear that we have billions of dollars in foreign reserves, right? Have you heard about that? How many billions we have in foreign reserves, yet our people are suffering. Now, shouldn't we be using some of the monies in the foreign reserves if they belong to us? Shouldn't we be using those to build productive capacities, to expand on our economy so that we can be able to create more jobs, and not only jobs, but well-paying jobs, that our citizens are able to live well? I am looking at Jamaica now, ladies and gentlemen, and all I'm seeing, for example, in the country and many areas, many people abroad are coming to Jamaica, are going to Jamaica rather, and they are buying off our lands, and these are foreigners coming from Germany, coming from Switzerland, coming from United States, from Canada, all over the world. and they're buying off our land. And very soon, just at the beaches, Jamaicans are going to see that everywhere is captured. Captured because we have not been paying attention. We think that just by having some foreigners there and they're investing in our economy, it means therefore that all is well. And that is not true. And we have to go back to the days of slavery. Remember now that many of our forebears, they were fighting for what? For land, the ownership of land. If we find that many foreigners are going to Jamaica and they're capturing the land by buying them off, of course, they're buying them because they can afford them. We can't afford the land. We can't afford the houses in Jamaica. So they're going down there and they are capturing these houses, they're capturing these lands, and then leaving our people just there at naked. We can't go to our beaches. Many of us don't have access to our, beautiful beaches. Okay, and very soon, many of our lands also will be taken away, and they will segregate Jamaicans. We are going to be living in a segregated country. Okay, and that's what I'm hearing too. That's coming out of some of the gossips coming out of the allegation charges in Portland Eastern. That's one of the reasons why I heard that what's her name, Anne-Marie Vaz, lost the election, because there were rumors that some of the beaches they had there, the Blue Lagoon, for example, was going to be privatized, and many of the residents there were not able to have access to these beaches, right? And other things that are being done there. It's a systemic problem. Now, we have here again, Alice Brackett, welcome to the show. 99% of Jamaicans are not aware of the 2030 agenda that must be implemented by all countries that have signed on to the WEF. And she is right. Okay, and that's why when I saw Alice Brackett, when I saw the Malahoo Fort at the sorting ceremony today, I was like, wow, right? Because I noticed that Andrew Holness, his first actually point in his speech was that he was going to ensure that we become a republic. Now, what do you think about us becoming a republic? Because I've been speaking, I'm not against the status of becoming a republic. So let me just be clear on that. I think that if we were living in an ideal world, in a world that is, that they're saying is true, and we were free, we're sovereign, absolutely, we should become a republic. All right. But if it's going to be just a republic by name and not in practice, then what purpose is that going to serve us? Right? And I think that Marlene Malahoo Fort is pushing this WEF agenda and making us feel as if we're free when they're actually enslaving us. And that is what they're doing with the 2030 agenda, Alice Brackett. And that is what scares the life out of me. But many Jamaicans, as you're saying, 99% of Jamaicans are not aware. They're not aware, and they don't want to be aware. So what they want to do, Alice, is they want to join platforms that talk about gossips, talk about the shows that we have on TV, the soap operas. And that's what our politics is all about. And then they get a high on it, and the next person wins, and the next person comes and does the same thing, and life goes on, and nothing changes. You go to Jamaica right now and you see some high-rise buildings, and that's great. But when you look at our country, every year you go back, very few changes you see, apart from the highways, and the highways we have to pay for them, right? Even though we are borrowing loans, we have to pay for them. Now, can you get the Prime Minister Holness on your program, maybe do a live? He's not going to do it. That's the whole thing. Did you see on a podcast? I have a very small podcast, and I've seen lots of other podcasts that I thought he would have gone on. He went on the one, this guy from the Grill, what's his name? This Jamaican from the Grill, who has some hotels there. I forgot his name. I think his name is, it's on the internet. Before the election, he did an interview with him, right? So I think Andrew Holness only does interview with people who perhaps see eye to eye with him and what he's doing. I don't think he's necessarily going to sit and do a program with someone who is going to ask him the hard questions. Trump, right. And their buddies. Well, when I say buddies, they do marathons together, so they know each other. And he's in the tourism sector. And Trump is a wonderful person. Trump is a wonderful guy, and I'm sure he's helping to build our economy. And he does a great job in terms of his YouTube channel. So I don't have anything, and I don't have anything against Dr. Andrew Holness also, right? But I didn't like the fact that he didn't show himself. He could have shown himself on more podcasts, even those who were opposing him. Look at Trump, President Trump. Well, when he was, running for office, at least he went and he presented himself, even on podcasts that might not have, been up his ally, and he answered his questions, right? So I think Andrew Holness needs to make himself more accessible. But again, he's busy, right? When we look at what he did, remember now that the JLP ran a campaign built on Andrew Holness. When you look at what is happening in the constituencies, let's look at what happened in Montego Bay, even in Malahoo Fort's constituency. What did she do to win a third term? What did Malahoo Fort do? Right? So obviously many of them, they won on the back of Andrew Holness. So he's very busy in terms of expanding himself, ensuring that, the JLP party wins, because he's running a winnable machinery. That is what he's doing. He's running, just like PJ Patterson, a winnable political machinery. All right? That's exactly what he's doing. Now, what do you think, Dr. Andrew Holness or Alice Brackett, how do you think we can fight against the 2030 agenda? How do you think we're going to be able to fight against the 2030 agenda? That, first of all, let's say what the 2030 agenda is. What is this 2030 agenda? We've been hearing it. We've been hearing that they want us to raise family and to make the economy prosperous and for us to live in our countries and prosper well and have families. But is that the real agenda? Is that the real agenda behind that agenda? Is that the real agenda? I don't think so. And when you read the UN objectives, you are going to see that we are being forced into a one world government, into a one world order, in a new world order, in which you have these mega corporations that are going to rule us. And we can see already the consolidation of these mega corporations. During the pandemic, for example, we see the likes of these billionaires getting many times more wealthier, right, than the average citizen. And we don't say anything. We keep silent, and we are depending on the government. We are depending on Andrew Holness. We're depending on Mark Golding to change our political realities. But at the same time, if they are bought out by these same people, they're not going to be loyal to you and to me. They are going to be loyal to the people who sent them there to govern. All right? And that's what we have to understand. If Mark Golding had won, it would not make much of a difference. All right? If Mark Golding, but obviously among the elites of Jamaica, the oligarchs, and perhaps in the global realm also, they thought Andrew Holness was the better wild card to play with, because at least Mark Golding was not experienced. So Andrew Holness is a more experienced one, and they prefer to play with that wild card. And that could be one of the main reasons why he won the election. But it's not that there is going to be a fundamental change in the status quo in Jamaica. There will not be any. And that's what we're seeing here, the recycling of speeches. Today, when you listen to his speech, you could have listened to that speech because he said that during his campaign. We've heard many of these promises. How many years have we heard these promises? Better jobs, crime is going to go down. Well, we can say that it went down for some time, but is it now resurging? Are we seeing now, are we witnessing a resurgence of crime and violence in our country now that the electioneering finished? These are questions we have to ask ourselves. And we have to hold our politicians accountable. And that requires a lot of political education. I hear people say, oh, I'm not political. I'm not political too. What I'm here to do is to educate about politics. Is, for example, we're not doctors, are we? I'm not a doctor, but I read about my health because your physical health is important. So you have to know how your body is, the function of the different organs. In the same way with politics, you might not be a politician, just like I'm not a doctor, but you should understand what good political health is. Because if the political health of our country is not good, it's going to affect the entire country, the economy, right? And just every facet of society. That's why we need good government and we need good governance. And over the years, we have not been having good governance. And Jamaicans, for the most part, they are left in the dark. And what I'm seeing in Jamaica too, we're seeing a consolidation of our media houses. Are you seeing that? Where our media houses are coming together. So the more they join their hands together and they consolidate these media houses, then what news are you going to get? What news are you going to get? Because right now we saw that the Gleaner was more aligned with the PNP and the Observer more aligned with the JLP. And in recent times, I'm hearing now that they're about to join hands and hearts together, the Gleaner and the Observer, in printing a daily. I don't know what they're doing. I mean, so many things are happening in Jamaica. And people are just there following the politics, not understanding that we have to look behind the scenes and we have to read between the lines and say, how can we have all of this consolidation of the media landscape and think that we are going to have competition? And very soon, I'm telling you, even my platform will be dethroned. They will not want to hear us. Because if you're challenging the government, they're going to say it's misinformation, you're attacking the government. Right now, if you're listening to what is happening in the United States and the death of Charlie Kirk, they're saying anybody who says anything that the government might not like, you can lose your job. And people are losing their jobs right now as we speak because of some of the comments. Now, we're not here to endorse anything and the violence that we see sometimes in America and how people express themselves, right? But we know we live in a violent culture and a violent world. And people talk violently to us all the time. There are people who will threaten us, right? And tell us what they're going to do to us and stuff like that. Should we tell them that they're going to lose their job or suppress their speech in the way? Well, of course, you can go to the courts and you can sue. That is your right to do so. But for the government now to say that they're going to, call you terrorist because of your pronouncements through your speech, then we know that we are heading down a slippery slope. We're heading down a slippery slope. And I don't understand, I don't know, and you probably can tell me, where are we going? And perhaps it leads back to your comment, Alice Brackett, that we're leading down to the 230, that's the 2030 agenda. That is going to be a control of everything. Your monies, okay, your bank accounts, your religion. And if you read your Bible, we understand that it's going to lead up to the mark of the beast. That you can buy or sell if you do not toe the line with the government. If you do not conform, then you will have to suffer the consequences. Now, if this is happening in the United States, the greatest democracy that we've been told, what do you think is going to happen in Jamaica? Let me just say this, though. We have to give Andrew Holness some credit for the fact that he has been able not to overstep his boundaries so far in terms of suppressing us. We don't know what he's going to do in his third term, but we also have to be vigilant. But during his first and second terms in office, he was quite respectful of free speech. There were some threats here and there, but at the same time, he did not do a follow-up of what he said he was going to do. Okay, but we have to be vigilant, and we have to ensure that we're having the conversations now, because let me say something to you, very soon we will not be able to have these conversations, ladies, and that's why you have to talk. I need to see you talking to me. I need to see you educating each other, and we're having a dialogue on this platform, a conversation, a discourse, okay, so that we can learn from each other, because there's coming a time when you will just have to be in your corner and you cannot say anything, because you can be judged, you can be punished based on your thought crimes, what you're thinking. And if it is not in the realm, in alignment with how the government wants you to think and what they want you to say, then you and I are going to be in trouble. Okay? So these are the observations I made today from Andrew Holness's speech, and what I saw is just a recycle of what we normally do. Right, the ceremony, wonderful ceremony. The songs were festive. I enjoyed the song by Vegas, I Am Blessed, right? Very wonderful song. It was appropriate. It was a great song to end the ceremony. But I think Andrew Holness, he always maintains this aura of class. He looks like a leader, carries himself as one. But we don't know, in light of what is happening, the fact that many Jamaicans have not decided to vote, we don't know what lies ahead in terms of what he's thinking, what he's going to do. Is he going to take on a dictatorial disposition in his third term? Your guess is as good as mine. I don't know. But these are the questions that we have to look out for what he's doing and for what he's not doing. Any questions or any comments? Let us see now that we can wrap up this live broadcast. Do you have any comments? What did you think? Before I go, let's look at the cabinet. Let us end with the cabinet pick. Who do you think he's going to pick for cabinet to be, for example, Minister of Justice? What do you think about Fable Williams and being do you think she should continue as the Minister of Finance? Let me know. Who do you think is going to be the Minister of Finance? Who do you think Dr. Andrew Holness will select as the Minister of Finance? Do you think that he will re-elect or reselect Fable Williams? What do you think? I would like you to tell me who you would like to see in Dr. Andrew Holness's administration, in his cabinet, the cabinet shuffle that he's about to do. I think is it tomorrow that he has to endorse the members of Parliament. I think it's tomorrow, if I'm not, if I can recall, right? Yeah. So who do you think is going to be finance? What do you think the cabinet is going to be looking like? Let me hear from you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to hear from you. What do you think Andrew Holness is going? Who do you think he's going to pick for finance minister? Favour Williams, or do you think Dr. Christopher Tufton might be a great selection? What do you think? Okay, what do you think about national security, Minister of National Security? Who do you think might be the best? Because this is very important, finance minister is very important because you're talking about our economy. And if we don't have a good finance minister, then we won't have an economy that will prosper. Okay, so we have to be a little bit more vigilant, a little bit more proactive in what we think. Okay. Now, what do you think about the Minister of National Security? Another very important ministry, because if we don't have a safe Jamaica, then we won't have a functioning Jamaica, right? We're going to have Jamaica that's going to be dying very soon. So, who do you think Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, is going to select as the Minister of National Security? We know we have Dr. Horace Chan. Do you think that he should re-elect him as the Minister of National Security? What do you think? Hello, what do you think? Do you think that Dr. Andrew Holness should re-elect Dr. Horace Chang as the Minister of National Security? Or he shouldn't? Please let me know. Or do you have any observations? Any other observations? What about to head up the tourism minister? Who do you think should be Minister of Tourism? Do you think that Ed Bartlett should remain? What do you think about Ed Bartlett and his stewardship over that department? No thoughts? What about, okay, the Minister of Justice? Who do you think should get the Minister of Justice? Wow, I don't like when I'm talking to students and they don't talk. My students talk up a lot. My students are quite interactive, so I hope that you will also, as students, I need to hear from you. I need to hear what you're saying. Do you think that that the Minister of Tourism, Ed Bartlett, should remain, or do you think there should be a change, a transition of that ministry? And the last question, do you think Andrew Holness is going to have a successful third consecutive term in office? Do you think that Dr. Andrew Holness, or do you think that some of the allegations of corruption will haunt him and perhaps will affect his third term in office? What do you think? Do you think that some of the corruption charges will continue to still haunt Dr. Andrew Holness? Akil is saying it's like it doesn't even matter who gets what. Okay, why do you think, Akil, that it doesn't matter? Do you agree with Akil, everybody? Do you think Akil is saying that it doesn't matter even who gets what? Do you think so? Do you agree with him? Do you agree with Akil that it doesn't matter who gets what? Or do you think it's still important? Now, government is important whether we like it or not. A government might be ineffective, but again, Akil, a government depends on how the citizens respond to government, right? And I think over the years, yes, Jamaicans have tried, but I think that we have not been vigilant enough. If we were more vigilant, I think that we would be the ones to let them know that they need to select the right person, all right, for whatever ministry that we think that they are going to perform in. But do you agree with Akil, ladies and gentlemen, that it doesn't even matter who gets what in terms of who gets Minister of Foreign Affairs? In fact, who do you think is going to get Foreign Affairs? Do you think he's going to keep Kamina Johnson-Smith, or do you think he's going to use somebody else? Let me know what you think. So we are comfortable. Anybody he chooses, you are comfortable with it. You don't have any expectations of the government. And first of all, let me ask you, what do you think about Andrew Holness winning a third term in office? Are you against it? Well, he's already won, so we can't change it. But do you think that he deserves, maybe better said, do you think Dr. Andrew Michael Holness deserves a third term in office? I want to hear from you, ladies and gentlemen. I want to hear from you. Do you think Dr. Andrew Michael Holness deserves a third term in office? Or do you think that he doesn't deserve the third term in office? Do you think Mark Golding would have made a better prime minister? And we're here to have a dialogue. This is not now party-oriented. This isn't a party-oriented channel. We're here to have a dialogue in terms of the development. Never voted for any of them, so it doesn't matter who you support or don't support, right? It doesn't matter to me. So I'm asking, do you think that Dr. Andrew Holness deserves a third term in office, or do you think that he does not deserve a third term in office? Let me know, and make sure you're liking the videos and you're sharing the live with other people so that we can have more people coming on the platform and engaging in a sober intellectual conversation with us, right? So do you think Dr. Andrew Holness deserves a third term, or do you think Mark Golding would have made a better prime minister? What do you think? Nobody's going to hit you guys. Nobody's going to tell you that your view is nonsensical. Your view is your view, and that's what we're here to discuss. So please let me hear what you think. Right? We're having adult discussion here, right? Adults in the room, and we have a country that's lagging behind, a country that has a lot of potential, a lot of untapped potential, but has not done well over the years because we have maintained a culture of silence. Jamaica lives, and that is ironical because we love to chat, right? We are the loudest in the room. We love to express ourselves. We like to be candid with each other. People say that the Bajans are double-faced, and we are just naturally outgoing, right? And we say what's on our minds. Okay, so we have here Jamaica does not deserve a third term like the last two. Okay, so when we say that Jamaica does not deserve a third term like the last two, what do you mean? Do you think that the last two terms, in what sense was it not successful? Akil, in what sense do you think the last two terms of Dr. Andrew Holness was not a successful administration? Let's look at the area of crime. Do you think he was successful in the area of crime? Do you think Dr. Andrew Holness, ladies and gentlemen, do you think Dr. Andrew Holness was successful in putting a dent in reducing crime and violence in Jamaica? We need to have this conversation because nobody is going to say, if you're PNP, I want to hear from you. If you're JLP, I want to hear from you. If you're independent, I want to hear from you. If you are apolitical, I want to hear from you, because we have to have these conversations. Too many of our podcasts, too many of our platforms online are just dividing our people on partisan lines, PNP or JLP, and it's destroying our people. We've got to now have some very hard and candid conversations about where we move from here, where we're going from here. And we need also to involve, and if there are young people on the live, we need you, because those of us who are in our 40s, I'm in my 40s now, we're not going to make the change anymore. All right, those of us who are in our upper 40s, 50s, 60s, and above, we are not going to make the change for Jamaica. All right, we can give you some advice, but the ones who are younger with more energy, the vibrant ones, you are the ones, your young people, you are the ones who need to come to the front of the classroom. The people like the Andrew Holnesses and the Shaw is now out, right? And all the cabinet ministers there, the Malahoo Forts, they are not going to make the change. right? Because we already we are already indoctrinated, conditioned into a mode of thinking, right? And young people need now to come to the front with the vigor and the energy and to move Jamaica forward. Okay, but what we've had over successive years is that successive generations do the same things as their predecessors, and nobody has the gumption, the temerity to make a change and say the road on which we have been traveling is the wrong path and we need to find our way back onto the right path. This is what I am saying that we need to do now. Okay, so how was Andrew Holness's two previous terms, the one that he had from 2016 to 2025 up to now? Now he's about to start his third consecutive term. How were these terms successful or unsuccessful? Or were they successful? Or were they not successful? What do you think? Now, we have to be honest now and we have to be fair too. Given the challenges that he had to encounter, do you think that Dr. Andrew Holness' 2 terms were successful or they were unsuccessful? Very easy question. And why or why not? We have to have these conversations. We've got to have these conversations. Why was his term successful or not successful? Do you think Mark Golding would have brought about the change that we need in Jamaica, the revolutionary change, the transformational changes that we need currently in Jamaica? Do you think that Mark Golding would have been able to step up to the plate and moved Jamaica to another level? Now that our debt is down at 62.4, we're almost at the target. The target is 60% of GDP. Now we are at 62.4, as Andrew Holness mentioned in his speech today. Do you think that Mark Golding would now have moved us to the next level? Based on your experience, based on what you're seeing, based on what you're reading. People, I'm here. Nobody's going to attack you. So let's talk. Let's not continue to live this culture of silence. It's this culture of silence that has allowed us to be in the predicament that we now find ourselves in. Okay? We're not speaking the truth. We're not calling a spade, because we're afraid that this person will agree with me because they're PNP and they're going to, they're going to lambaste me, they're going to deride me. But this is about our country moving forward, and we have to have the necessary conversations. I was impressed the other day. I was on a podcast with some people from Barbados, and the Barbadians, they are not as outgoing as Jamaicans are. And some of them are not happy with what they're seeing in the country. And they're having these conversations every day. Almost every day they're having it on their platform. And they're coming out and they're saying the things that they are not happy about, about which they're not happy in their country. And why are we in Jamaica just sitting there and just, silent? We have, yes. So Akil is saying, well, Mark and the PNP, all right, so we have that Mark and the PNP did say that it would reach the target based on current implementations by the GLP, basically. So does it mean, do you think, Akil, that he would have been able to do that? Now, remember now, the target is the target of the IMF. So the IMF has set us target. It doesn't mean that their target means that we would have achieved prosperity, but it means therefore it would have paid down our debt. My question, Akil, and others are online, having paid down our debt, having paid down the national debt, what's the next move? How are we now going to move our people forward? How are we going to lift them out of poverty? Because no matter what the Prime Minister says, when you go to Jamaica, when people travel to Jamaica, they see too much poverty. Jamaica is the poverty hits you for six. Right? No matter what we want to say, the big houses down there. Yes, we have some big houses. Yes, we have a few prosperous people down there. We can't say that that's not true. Yes, you have those who have moved from poverty to prosperity. All right. But for the most part, many of our people, too many of our people, for a population that has not grown significantly, are living in poverty. And why? We don't have a population of even 5 million people, yet we cannot find a way to lift the majority of our people out of poverty. Something is wrong with us. Something is wrong with Jamaica. So I think it would reach the target regardless. Yes, so it would reach the target, Akil, but after the target, what is the plan? Because the IMF doesn't have a plan to build Jamaica, you know. The IMF only is there it wants back its money, and that's what it is there to do. To lend us money and to get it back at, high interest rates that have caused us to have lagged behind the other Caribbean countries because of these huge demand and the austerity that were imposed upon us. So we are behind. So yes, we are saving. We say that we have cut down the debt. Okay, let me just give you a simple thing. If you want to go to school and you know that your school, your education is going to cost you, let us say 100 or 200,000 US dollars, you have to be able to say, when I leave school, and many students don't do this. I taught at Howard University, right? And there are many students, sometimes they go to universities and they take out this huge student's loan, right? And at the end of the day, they either don't complete their studies, so they leave and they have to pay back the debt. They have to. They have no choice. So they leave school without a skill, so they're going to live in poverty. Those also who might not have done the right career, and when they leave their schooling after they get their degrees and they're working, their pay is not sufficient to pay back the huge debt. So they find themselves living in continual poverty. Okay? Now, as a country, we have not yet said, how are we going to, after reducing our debt and having made such grueling sacrifices, how are we now going to build the economy? We don't know. So the target is the IMF target. It's not the Jamaican target. What is the Jamaican target? It is to build our economy, right? So that our people can live in Jamaica and they can live prosperously. But we're not doing that. We're just simply narrating to our people the goals of the IMF. And if the IMF is okay with it, then we should be okay with it. But the IMF is not there to help us. Right? I think Jamaica is the only country in the world now in which people think that the IMF is there to help us. The people the world over, including in Burkina Faso, because I think that Ibrahim Traoré also got rid of the IMF. Am I true? I think when Ibrahim Traoré got into office there in Burkina Faso, that the IMF, they were under an IMF agreement. And if I'm correct, I think that he has arranged and, I think pay them what they should get and keep them out. Right? Because he understood that you cannot have IMF austerity and development at the same time. The two are incoherent. Can't have austerity and development happening at the same time. Okay? And I'm not saying now that you can't lend somebody some money, but there ought to be a way in which you are going to use the debt that you are accruing to build something that is productive so that you can be able to pay back your debt and to live even better after that. Just as I'm saying, if you are studying medicine and you're, getting a huge loan, you know that when you leave school in the United States, for example, you're making six figures, right? So you are able to pay back your loan and to live at least a comfortable life. But we in Jamaica there, we've been paying down our debt since 2013, and we don't see where we're going, or do we? Right? The schools, what new schools have been built over the last 10 years? What new hospitals have been built? Yeah, we did. Some have been refurbished, but even the PTA, the PTA president, the president of the PTA, the Teachers Association rather, he was saying, and he's right, and I've also said it on my channel, that many of the classrooms in Jamaica, if you return to them, there is no difference. They look no differently from how they looked from when your grandparents and your parents were attending school. The same old, same old. Yes, a few whiteboards here and there, but the same metal chairs, nothing, no improvement of any worth. Okay? And why? Why have we not been able to modernize? I'm even looking at simple things like a state funeral, right? The other day, Don Webby died, unfortunately, God forbid, right? Well, not God forbid, God bless his soul, because he's already dead. And they had a state funeral, okay? And every state funeral we have in Jamaica, you can't have a cathedral that is AC, that is air conditioned. Yet we're prosperous. Everything, people there are fanning like we're living in a fourth world country. And I'm like, what is going to happen to Jamaica? Don't we have a civic pride that we should have some of these facilities AC'd? So when we have our state funerals and we're inviting the guests, these, ambassadors and whatever to our funerals, sometimes the very presidents and prime ministers of countries, that they're coming to all these state funerals and they have to be fanning, right? Nothing has changed. You go and you look at Michael Manley's state funeral, it's the same thing, same fanning, right? And you're saying that we're prosperous. Now, who does that? In what prosperous economy, people don't have state funerals in which they can sit comfortably in an AC'd location, a place where they can run their AC? Yet Jamaica is prosperous. Jamaica is civilized. Jamaica is modern, right? Or children in the classroom, they can't even, sit in a classroom that is AC, right? Just have to be hot with 40 students, 50 students in one classroom, right? And you have to give our teachers the credit for putting up with the foolishness in Jamaica all these years. Well, some of them are leaving, and that's why they're leaving. But for the ones who stay and the work that they have to endure and to do with the limited resources. And then the government is saying to them, oh, and we increased your salaries, we gave you a huge salary, a huge increase in salary, which is not true. Many teachers barely are surviving. They're barely surviving. Okay? And how are we going to grow if our society is not educated? If we don't place more value on education. So if there are monies that need to be, that we're getting from the reduction of our debt, we need to ask the Prime Minister, how much is it that now that our debt is at 62.4, how much money do you have in the budget that has been relaxed from the fact that we have reduced our debt? Who is asking the government that question? Even during the debates, Dion Jackson Miller didn't ask any question like that. Nobody asked him any question with regard to the IMF. Do you notice that? During the debates, the national debates, nobody dared, even the Prime Minister and Mark Golding. And when they had the financial with debates with Julian Robinson and all these people, right? None of the journalists dared even mention the IMF and where we were, and the memorandum of understanding, and how much money is relaxed or is not relaxed. Nobody dared ask those questions because we're living in a culture of silence. We're living in a culture of silence. And then we say, oh, everything is hyped. We're prosperous, right? Time come. And this is where we're going. And I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say, and I want to hear from you. I am talking too much. I want to hear from you. Maybe I am sick. Maybe I'm the delusional one. Maybe I'm the pessimistic one. Maybe I am the skeptical one. And that is why I'm trying to hear from you, to listen to what you are saying, so that we can have an open dialogue. Okay? That's what I want to hear. So that's what I'm asking. And I want to hear from more than Akil. Akil has mentioned, what about the others? Do you think that Andrew Holness has prospered the Jamaican economy? And if yes, how has he? And don't be nervous. Don't be shy. Nobody's going to attack you here. It is your opinion. What I'm saying are also my opinions. And we're here to share so we can see how we can learn from each other. Do you think that Dr. Andrew Michael Holness presided over a prosperous economy during his first 2 terms in office? Yes or no? You can just say yes. Yes or no. Let me see in the box. Do you think Dr. Andrew Michael Holness presided over a prosperous economy during his first 2 terms in office? Yes or no in the box. Just write that. I want you to see you stay telling me yes or no. Nothing, right? You're not sure. So how are you able to vote? How are you guys able to vote if you cannot determine if Andrew Holness has presided or had presided over a successful economy? How are you able to vote? Because voting requires that you are able to say that. What were you voting for, or based? Why? What did you vote? What did you base your voting decision on? Can't say. But these are the things I wanted to share with you, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope that the next live we have, that you will be able to be a little bit more engaging. Now, what are some of the topics that you want me to talk on? Can you tell me what are some of the topics that you'd like us to discuss in the next live? I was thinking that last Sunday, because I had some internet issues, I wasn't able to finish the live with the BRICS versus the West. So this Sunday, I was planning to do a part 2 of that, so that we can get that live done again. Okay, since there were some sort of internet interruptions, the last one I had. Now, what are, please write in the comment section again, what are some of the topics that you'd like us to talk about in subsequent lives? Please let me know. Anything, could be the IMF, could be the World Bank, could be geopolitics, could be the war on Russia, could be the impending war on Venezuela. What do you want us to talk about or anything Jamaican domestic topic? What topic or title would you want to have me address on the next live? Esperando, I'm still waiting. Yes, we could look at that, the 2030 agenda. All right, so in the next live, we are going to look at the 2030 agenda. And I think the next live is going to be on Sunday, because that's when most of my people are online. My subscribers are online. And Akil and others, when you're on the live, just share the live with others so that we can have other people join. Yes, I want Fred Corbin to do that. And that would be good. Yeah, I think that I had him in mind, Akil, but I want Fred Corbin to do that together on Sunday. So instead of doing the BRICS, I think I will do that, the 230 agenda. But make sure that you also share the live with other people so that we can get our thing to be exposed and to get more people on the live. Any other thing in Jamaica that we would like? So this Sunday, we are going to look at the 2030 agenda. And evidently, we'll be looking at some of the aspects, how that's going to affect the Caribbean region, and what are some of the characteristics of this agenda. Any questions before I go? Now, think it's now time to end the live. I think we've spoken on enough matters regarding Andrew Holness's third term in office. Any other matter that we could talk about before we end? Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining, and we will see you in another live. Make sure that you like the live before you get off the live, and you share the live with your friends and your family, all right, and your colleagues. See you another one. Ciao. All the best. Bye.